Hello everyone, my name is Ioana VLAD and I'm currently a second year master student in banking and capital markets. In the following minutes, I will present my research entitled Xenophobia in Foreign Direct Investment, Evidence from Host Countries, conducted under the supervision of Professor Alexandru TODEA. First of all, I would like to mention that the idea of this research originated from the observation that xenophobia represents an informal institution that guides and influences human behavior, yet it has not been previously examined in relation to foreign direct investment. Moreover, at the international level, we are currently witnessing a rise in xenophobic sentiments in some countries, accompanied by an increase in nationalists, particularly sovereignist manifestations, and the continuous erosion of democracies. Given this unfortunate reality, we ask ourselves a key question: does xenophobia influence foreign direct investment? This question led to the main objectives of our study, which I will underline next. First, we aim to analyze how xenophobia in host countries influences the size of incoming FDI flows. Secondly, we wanted to identify the type of xenophobia that affects FDI, since there is a difference between hostility toward foreigners in general and hostility toward immigrants. Furthermore, we sought to highlight the moderating effects of two other informal institutions, nationalism and autocracy, on the relationship between xenophobia and FDI. A review of the relevant literature revealed several studies focusing on informal institutions and their impact on FDI flows. For instance, Jacobson and Jacobson found that in emerging economies, nationalism inhibits FDI. Tang demonstrated a U-shaped relationship between individualism, one of Hofstede's six cultural dimensions, and FDI flows, while another study showed that high power distance in host countries discourages investment from countries with lower power distance values. Additionally, Hong et al. Recently found that religious distances between countries hinder FDI flows. And finally, another study demonstrated that bilateral trust between home and host countries has a positive effect on FDI. Based on these findings, we selected our control variables for the regression models. The hypotheses we formulated and subsequently confirmed through our empirical analysis are as follows. Xenophobia in the host country has a negative impact on FDI inflows. Nationalism in host countries amplifies the negative effect of xenophobia on FDI. Autocracy in host countries amplifies the same negative effect, and when both nationalism and autocracy are present, they jointly reinforce the negative impact of xenophobia on FDI. This light hypothesis we tested using a three-way interaction model. Our dataset includes 52 investing and home and host countries, covering the period 2009-2021. The selection was determined by data availability, as some observations has to be removed due to missing information. The data sources used include the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the World Value Survey, and various previous empirical studies. The main variables used in the regression models are foreign direct investment, bilateral flows between country pairs were manually extracted from the International Monetary Fund's Coordinated Direct Investment Survey to avoid errors. The natural logarithm on FDI values was used to reduce large-scale variations that could distort the estimations. Xenophobia and nationalism were constructed using World Value Survey data, and autocracy derived from the Economist Intelligence Unit's Democracy Index by subtracting each country's score from 10, which is the maximum possible democracy score. The control variables were selected based on recent literature and include GDP per capita, trade openness, financial openness, tax rate differentials, the world governance indicators, geographic adjacency, and religious distance. As mentioned earlier, we constructed two measures of xenophobia and one measure of nationalism. For xenophobia, we use responses from the World Value Survey conducted across 60 countries and several waves. We quantified the share of respondents who answered yes to the following questions. Would you mind having neighbors who speak a different language than your country's national language? And would you mind having immigrants or foreign workers as neighbors? The proportion of yes responses relative to the total sample was then calculated, resulting in two xenophobia measures, one general against foreigners and one specific against immigrants. For nationalism, we applied a similar procedure, using responses to the question, do you feel you truly belong to your country? We quantified the affirmative responses and expressed them as proportions, obtaining a nationalism index that reflects the sense of national belonging. The descriptive statistics show that xenophobic attitudes are higher in Islam countries and Southeastern Asian nations such as India, Indonesia, Morocco, Pakistan, and Thailand. The general model specification is displayed on this slide. We estimated the model using the pooled OLS method. Fixed effects by the destination country were not applied because for many countries, xenophobia does not vary over time, as it is measured in a single WVS wave. In such cases, fixed effects are not appropriate. Additionally, since investment decisions are inherently bilateral, we clustered standard errors by country pairs following best practices in the literature. The most suitable measure of xenophobia appears to be the General Xenophobia Index, derived from the question about language based intolerance. In column 1, we observed a negative relationship consistent with our first hypothesis. Standard errors are shown in between brackets. In the second model, xenophobia toward immigrants also shows a negative coefficient, but it is statistically insignificant. When using residualized xenophobia measured, isolating the independent effects of general and immigrant-related xenophobia, the results are confirmed. Only general xenophobia significantly explain FDI variation. Thus, we proceeded using the general xenophobia measure. Because xenophobia is based on survey data, it may be measured with error, potentially causing endogeneity. To address this, we treated xenophobia as an endogenous variable and instrumented it. The results remain robust. The instruments are valid if they are strongly correlated with xenophobia and do not directly affect FDI. The control variables behave consistently with expectations and previous studies, such as Tang in 2012. Here we tested the moderating effects of nationalism and autocracy. In the interaction models 2, 4, and 6, all variables were mean-centered for better interpretability. Models 1 and 3 show negative coefficients when variables are considered 2 by 2. In model 4, despite centering, autocracy turned positive due to its correlation with the interaction term. Model 5 indicates that all three variables have negative effects on FDI, and in Model 6, the two-way and three-way interactions are also negative. In summary, countries characterized by xenophobia, extreme sovereignism, and democratic decline attract significantly less FDI. Xenophobia in host countries has a significant negative effect on FDI inflows, confirming our main hypothesis. Also, nationalism and autocracy reinforce this negative impact, further reducing the economic attractiveness of these countries to foreign investors. Thus, nations marked by xenophobia, extreme sovereignism, and democratic backsliding will attract progressively fewer FDI inflows. Here you can see some selective biography, and thank you so much for listening.